Hello, my friends. Jacob's here one more time for an Out of This World show. I mean, what is going on? There's so many different sightings that are happening right now. If you're on social media, you'll see that there are these bright lights that are showing up everywhere. They just showed up over the U.S. Capitol. They just showed up in Russia. Today, before I started this show right now, there were in Arizona. People are airing all of this footage that you're looking at right now, and it's blowing their minds.
Around it. I know, Allah.
These spears that are like just appearing everywhere. Reminds me a little bit of that movie that was done in 1998 called Spear, Barry Levinson.
It's the best.
Earlier this year, I shared this crazy dream that I had about aliens, where I said that, aliens were invading, and I looked up and they all looked like these helium, like balloons, and they were everywhere. And then the alien balloons, these like spear-like objects released this, I don't know what it was. It was like this black substance, and then I was blind. But when I woke up from the dream, I was going, maybe, all of this stuff isn't exactly what we think. Maybe there's more to it. So I find it interesting that here we are not too long after, right? And everybody's talking about the spears. So you know what I do? I bring on UFO, UAP, the expert himself, Rex Bear from Leak Project.
Hey, how the heck are you?
I'm good, man. I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. Thanks for the opportunity. It's good to see you. Thanks for it's actually been nice. I was thinking to myself, when am I going to have the opportunity to speak to Jacob again? I mean, so let's talk about it, man. I have been diving deep into these drones that are flying over military sites, and I think they're more than just drones, and we can talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, hang on a second. You got one right behind you now. You told me while we were setting this up, you're like, Jacob, you're going to freak out, dude. This is the thumbnail for the podcast I'm uploading right now. Because I said, Rex, we got to talk about aliens. This is the thing. I reached out to him, and I'm like, can you do a show in 20 minutes? He's like, yeah, let's do it. You know why? Because the world needs us, Rex. If the alien invasion is happening, they need you to tell them what it is.
Okay. Oh man, I'm so torn on this, because at first I thought it was just, actually military aerial vehicles that are gathering recon.
Like the Chinese spy balloon?
Yeah, but much more advanced.
Right.
Because a Chinese spy balloon, that's easily trackable. You can follow that to where it's going with, satellites, helicopters. One of the reports of a UAP that was shot down over Lake Huron last year,
right,
was an F-16 fighter jet that launched a missile, and they said they launched it at a balloon, and the balloon slowly fell to the bottom, and they found some debris, but they're not sure if it was the debris that they shot down. But they said that the debris that they found was a balloon. But I mean, is it normal for you launch a missile at a balloon, a weather balloon, and it just slowly falls to the ground?
Yeah, very strange. Instead of just like smacking, like blowing up immediately. This whole thing, they just had the conference. We talked, I think this was our last show. Was this our last show?
It was.
This is crazy. This is the last show we did. And we're like, yeah, we're going to probably start to see it. We're going to start seeing footage, we said. This was our last show, and now here we are. And it was I think it was just a couple of weeks ago. It was like the 13th we taped this.
Background, right? Some people would label you as a member of the deep state. The deep state. Can you tell us more about that incident? You've written a lot about that.
What the watchstanders on the bridge observed was a UAP. Again, something that was aloft but had no observable exhaust or control surfaces. So it was something that couldn't be explained. And then they saw it enter the water from the atmosphere and going through the air-sea interface.
In our previous panel, we had Grush, and he had testified to say that some of these were interdimensional beings. Can you speak on that at all?
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin. The vehicles we're talking about are performing in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
So would it be safe to infer that they're living craft? They're living craft?
I'm not prepared at this point to state for the record is something alive or not, because even that definition.
Can you speak on that at all?
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin.
There's a reason we're coming together, because like when you were asking me a minute ago what I think these things are, at first I thought they were just military vehicles. I thought possibly defense contractors that are outside of the military, connected with the military, could be making certain things in laboratories that the rest of the military doesn't know about. So compartmentalized anyway, even if you have a top security clearance, top secret security clearance, you're still compartmentalized. You'll know a lot, but there's other compartments that you're not going to know about. Right. So I thought, could these things be, testing the waters, trying to build up a fear-based mindset with the people so that new rules and regulations and monies could be brought in for anti-drone technologies, especially if we look at what's going on overseas now with the drones. But the more and then somebody sent me a link the other day about how in 1952, there were hundreds of thousands of sightings, and you can look this up. This is all public available information. It's not a conspiracy theorist website. I mean, you can even look it up on Wikipedia.
Did that have something to do with the, I don't know, the maybe weapons technology or something? You think that's why?
Well, okay, so if we go back to 1952, there were thousands of sightings of UFOs flying over the Capitol. And it happened for 17 days.
Right. 17.
17
That's Trump's number.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. 71 years later is when Langley gets these swarms of UAPs that fly over Langley.
Okay.
They fly over Langley for 17 days.
Yeah.
So you've got 17 in 1952. 71 years, so the opposite of
17 backwards.
71 years to the sightings in Langley, and then it's another 17 days.
That's the letter Q.
Well, yeah, and somebody had mentioned that. So I started thinking to myself, okay, maybe this isn't just military drones flying over in attempts to create this like public outcry,
right.
this public archetype. I think these things could, and then I started thinking, okay, how come they can't catch them? If you've got drones flying over Langley, that is a federal offense.
That's crazy.
Dude, if you get caught doing that, you're in deep. So but then they say, oh, well, we can't shoot them down because we're in an area that's surrounded by civilians, and there's civilian aircraft and such in the area. So we can't shoot them down. We can't set up anti-drone technologies. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just really bizarre. So they get law, but it's law. I guess it's a law that if they're not interfering with the military at the time, then it has to be like the FBI can get involved and law enforcement can get involved, but how are they not catching these things?
I saw a video just yesterday where it was over a military base, and there was this young family, and it was an orb, or just a bright light. Everybody's calling it an orb, and like an F-16 or something started coming to it, and it was like hovering there, and it went like up, and then it went like diagonal, and then went like this. And I go, hang on a second. That's not the way a plane flies. Maybe it could be like a drone, but it would be a huge drone. I mean, I guess a regular drone could do something like that. Do you think there's a possibility that it could be alien?
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility. It could also be a breakaway civilization. It could also be a civilization that's from Earth that has survived multiple epochs and cataclysms and has continued to build up their technologies because they're a breakaway civilization.
Kind of like an overlords, kind of like overlords of the planet or something, maybe like an alien species. I mean, are you thinking something like what is it called? The Galactic Federation? Eshid in Israel?
Yeah. If anybody's going to know about extraterrestrial civilizations, it's Machachek. The guy is at the top of the echelon in Israeli aerial defense and space programs. He's at the top of the spear there. He says that we're working with a galactic federation on Mars, and that they're not ready to make themselves known yet because we don't understand space, and we don't understand spaceships, and we don't understand the technologies yet. So that could be somebody saying, well, he's just breaking character, or he's just trying to create this archetype of a fake alien invasion like Von Braun talked about before he passed, saying the last card is going to be the alien invasion card.
Yeah.
And then you can go back to people. There was a gal that was like, she thought she was talking to the Greys.
Right.
And she thought the Planet X was going to return. She put her dog down.
Yeah.
She had her dog put down. This was back in the year
She
2000.
like literally, she thought it was really going to be like the end of the world type of a thing. And she's like, I'm going to, take care of my dog because I love my dog.
Yep. She had her dog put down. And, I'm not going to, you can, most people, if you can find out who this person is, she was really big in the Planet X community 20 years ago.
That's really sad, man.
Yeah, it is really sad saying that she's talking to Zeta Reticuli and stuff. And so that was, so there's different galactic federations. The reason I'm bringing that up is there's the Galactic Federation of Light from the 45th dimension where everybody's going to save you with unicorns and butterflies. And I can feel it through this quantum connection that I'm holding my crystals and they're talking to me. And then there's like the Galactic Federation that is, if there is a non-human or a human, but also galactic federation that is overseeing certain planets when they get to a specific level of technology. Maybe they're not worried about them as much blowing up themselves, but what happens if they get that technology into space? Right. And, you're not going to travel to Zeta Reticuli with a rocket thruster. I don't care how many nuclear, how powerful that nuclear technology is. It's going to have to be some type of space warp, wormhole technologies.
Zeta Reticuli sounds like something that you need like bacitracin for.
What is it? Like what?
Like an antibiotic. You have Zeta Reticuli. 9 out of 10 doctors recommend. I mean, this is a little.
It's interesting you said that because that's where the probes came from. And so here's another thing that's really interesting, folks. I mean, and keep up with what I'm saying here, because one of the gentlemen that brought these aliens from Zeta Reticuli on the map, because he had an abduction experience and they said they were from Zeta Reticuli. First of all, if you get abducted from something that has high technologies, they could say they're from anywhere.
Right.
And, so just put that in perspective. But this person has a horrific experience. And I believe that they had this experience. I just don't think that aliens from Zeta Reticuli did it. And I'll tell you why. Because this person brought up how he was probed. And I'll just leave it at that. But then he brought up...
Check. Yeah. We've gotten to the point where we're talking about probe. Danielle.
This is important. I'm telling you, it's important. So he describes the tool used, and I thought to myself, that sounds like something a veterinarian would use.
Okay.
And I mentioned it, and he's like, yeah, it does.
Right.
So you got to be real careful when you start thinking about aliens and galactic federations and
people with imagination. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that people can take this a little bit too far, and
or they can have. Let's say there's a group out there, a very nefarious group, that if you do have an experience with an ET, then they come out and they do something to you like MK style, and then you don't really know what happened. So they kind of cover the memories. So,
like my childhood.
Your childhood? Are you serious?
I had a lot of abuse, but that's okay.
I'm sorry, bro.
That's all right. I got my dog's ashes today, Daisy, who I love so much. So today's just been a weird day. And so I thought the idea of talking about aliens would be a good thing. And now that we've gone into the realm of what probes are, speaking of the vet, I think it's pretty. It's time to move on to the spear behind you, because this is. Do you remember that movie? In the movie was Dustin Hoffman and Samuel L. Jackson, Sharon Stone. It was like a physicist and like a poet or whatever. And they there was the spear, but it turns out they found out it was an alien artifact, and the alien artifact could interact with them and also had something to do with time travel. But ultimately, it was there to basically observe like, mankind and in their next epoch. And so I wonder if this is real, if it could be some kind of, the overlords are like, hey, we're making ourselves known. They had that. Do you remember the parade in Egypt where they took all the pharaohs, all the gods came up and they paraded them in? That was right around the same time that we heard about those pyramid UFOs. Do you remember the pyramid UFOs? That, that Blink 182 and all of those guys that were at the Congress recently were talking about pyramid UFOs. That was it's like a couple of years ago. And that's when the Galactic Federation came out. And so I was getting the vibe that it's like, we're trying, you guys aren't ready yet, but you have like a certain amount of time to get that news out. Did you hear about that? Like you have like a certain amount of time before to give everybody disclosure. Do you think that maybe this could be disclosure happening right now?
I do. I do. And I'll tell you what, you're giving me an awesome vibe here, because the orbs, the spheres, Kristen and I saw a metallic sphere, Pagosa Springs, during the day, about 1:30, 2 o'clock, at the 11 o'clock position, 50 feet or less off the ground. It's a silver orb, metallic. It's shiny. It's there 1 second. By the time I get my phone to take a picture, it's gone. I said,
messing with you.
Did you see that, Kristen? She goes, what, the disc? She saw a disc, but a disc could be like this, and I said, well, yeah, did you see that orb? And she's like, yeah. And so Kristen saw it. I saw it daytime, not at night. It's there. Then it's gone. It's physical.
Well, they're watching you. They're watching you. You've been, disclosing all of this stuff about the aliens for a long time. So of course they're onto you, Rex. They're onto you.
Dude, what you're saying, man, that makes so much sense.
I mean, come on. Of course it makes sense. You're like the OG of YouTube, pal. You don't think the aliens are watching you?
Well, thanks, brother. I love you, man. I don't mean like that. I just mean like the presence, this presence that is, like you said, overlords watching out for us, watching our evolution, watching how we respond, watching, where we're going to take this. And it's 2030, man. There's a big connection with 2030. They're watching
the agenda,
us.
Yeah, that's the agenda.
Maybe
Get ready for everybody.
Dude. So that's why they can't shoot these drones down. That's why they can't catch these drones.
Probably. Yeah.
Because they're not hobbyist drones. Beyond our wow.
It's no hobby drone.
Yeah. I picked it up at the Walmart. It's a
remember the balloon though? But this being said, I remember I was at an airport and we were traveling and every single TV had. Do you remember the helium balloon where they thought the kid was stuck in it and everybody thought it was an alien thing? Gee, it could be. Who knows? That's the thing is they had these meetings and then we did that show. Here we are. And it's now like there's one video after another video after. It seems like this is going to be the big news this week. And my feeling is, is it real? What are we supposed to believe? The videos sound real. Why would the timing be now? You think it's linked to 2030? You think it's linked to that?
100%. Not only that, but where we're at as civilization right now. And look at what's going on overseas. We're very fortunate that it's not here because it is real. And right. Millions of people are suffering right now. And we're getting closer than ever to using nuclear weapons again.
Yeah,
2 minutes to midnight. So they're coming out and they're saying, look, they're getting recon on everything.
Right.
So they could shut everything down at once.
Oh, now you're scaring me. Come on. Now you're scaring me, Rex. You're scaring me. So we're going to shut everything down.
They shut down one, then there's a million others that could launch at that time. So they'd have to shut everything down because they know the protocols and they're reconning everything. And the question is, if they shut everything down, then what?
Yeah. Well, that would be mayhem. That would be mayhem. Think people would go nuts. They'd be scared, or it's one of those things where we're already starting to send, there's a story that when, President Trump comes in, that, they're going to basically go and they're going to get rid of everybody. This open border policy that you hear about Starmer over there in England. He's like, the U.S. was testing out a theory, just like open the border, see what happens. Now our supposed allies are basically saying that. But so the story is that there's going to be an executive order. They're going to put military everywhere under the guise of we're getting rid of the aliens. Come on, go with that. That's weird, right?
Illegal aliens or like space?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're saying they're getting rid of the migrants, the illegal aliens, but maybe there's another reason. Maybe they want the military everywhere so that if, it's like the Bureau and the Anunnaki are coming in, that it's kind of like, we got to have order, so we're going to have order. We're going to have everybody working. Look, that guy from Israel, head of the Galactic Space Force or the Israel Space Defense for 30 years, he said that, they actually are invested in our well-being and stuff, and that, they know that we're, as a species, we're not ready. So it seems to me like they got their hand in things. So I don't think, maybe we probably shouldn't be that scared. But there's another story going around. I don't know if you heard about this one, where the Galactic Federation said things were going okay until AI took over and nanotech, and then, so there's this battle, this war that's going on between the aliens and the robots. And I'm thinking, thank God I'm a creator on YouTube with you, because that's a story.
It reminds me of the Star Wars shows where you got clones fighting robots. I mean, how far are they going to take it? We look at the warfare in the battle zones right now. It's becoming more automated every single day. There was a recent dogfight between the Air Force's top pilots and the artificial intelligence projects that they were using to pilot these vessels. I think were they F-16s or F-18s?
Yeah, and who won?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're in trouble.
We are. Oh man. And you see these Star Wars shows where like these freaking drones don't know, like their aim is terrible, right? I mean,
these guys are good though. They're good though.
Yeah, they're probably better than anybody out there. I mean, because they'll have all the logistics, all the sensors, all the data set, and they'll know the weather patterns. Yeah.
Look, I'm so glad you put that up, and it's so crazy that you built that for another show. The remake of that movie that Tom Cruise did, it's a series. I'm forgetting the name of it, but the whole invasion starts with these spears that show up, and then they kind of like emit a sound, and like humans in the vicinity, anybody who's not underground dies. And so spears
War of the Worlds.
Thank you. Spears are like, they're deeply ingrained in sci-fi culture. And what I thought was interesting was, do you remember, and they have the Las Vegas Spear. Do you remember when U2 was promoting on YouTube their Achtung Baby album, which means danger in German, danger, and their video, which I'm actually playing right now, their promo was all of these spears started to show up. And then the very, very end of it, he says, Achtung, which means danger, almost like they were warning us. And then you had all of the alien talk at the award show recently where the girl kisses the alien. I mean, this is just getting a little rich, So, I mean, are we at like a breaking point?
We're always at a breaking point, and then it always seems to fix itself and become stronger because of that. Like, the micro breaks when you're working out.
Right.
I want to show you something, man. You brought something up. I'm going to do a screen share here, and I think this is really interesting about the sphere. I'm so glad we're having this talk because mind meld, dude. Remember when this was over by the Vatican?
I do remember. Yeah, that's on my list. Yeah, that's on my list. Yeah, that's and there's another one somewhere else.
Oh too. Yeah, there's several.
There's several all over the world, and it does look a little bit like, some kind of an AI or some kind of a looks like a drone of some sorts. Looks like something.
That's exactly what we saw, but it was smooth. It wasn't broke. That's exactly what we saw. And then remember,
Phantasm.
The spears.
Right. Wow, I completely forgot about that. I mean, listen.
Boy. Remember that part?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was so freaky.
Such a freaky movie. So
Scary.
strange.
Now they're swarming RAFs, like Royal Air Force bases in the UK,
Right.
and they're still doing it. I just read a report. They're still out there.
And people don't seem to be like the government's don't seem to be too concerned, because right after that conference that we talked about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
The the government came out and said, we have no evidence that there's anything, but yet they're so messed up. They really gaslight the heck out of us, and hey, what do you tell people? Like, put your dog down? God forbid. What do you tell people? Don't be scared. I mean,
don't be scared. Be prepared. Be prepared, not scared. And first of all, like, if they've been watching us and they know who we are already anyway, they're going to know which ones are causing the problems. They're going to know which ones have genuine, like, positive intentions and want to help the world. And even if they're wrong, they're doing their best to help people. And so I would say just watch yourself, know where you're at in life, and be the best that you can be as a human being, and have an open mind, but not so open that it falls out on the sidewalk. And
what about the theories that there's like a bunch of different, like there's the reptilians, there's the insectoids. Isn't there like some kind of archaeological evidence that maybe they're like insect aliens or something?
See, I don't know, man. When I was just a toddler, like I wasn't even 2 years old yet, and I was in my crib, and I can still remember it like it was kind of yesterday. And I remember looking at these beings, and I don't know what they were, but
they've been watching you that long?
I don't know. Maybe it was a dream.
Probably have.
I had a bad fever. I had a really high fever when I was a kid too, so it could have just been a bad fever.
You could have been tripping. Yeah.
I could have been tripping, but I remember looking at these beings that were looking at me, and I was looking at them, and we were all just kind of like, huh. And they kind of look, when I think about what they look like, I asked my parents later on in life, like if we had, because I grew up watching Star Wars and stuff. And so I said, did we have life-size Star Wars figures growing up? And my parents kind of were like, what are you talking about, Rex? But have you seen Return of the Jedi?
Oh yeah, of course. Who hasn't?
Exactly. You know the scene in Return of the Jedi where they're okay, so there's Jabba the Hutt, they're in that club and or bar or whatever, and there's those beings that are playing instruments.
Yeah.
That's what my mind remembers as far as what they look like. That's where my mind goes.
Oh, wow.
They kind of have an insectoid type vibe.
Right.
But they weren't taking me on any spaceships. They weren't doing anything weird. Hell no. We were just staring at each other.
This is a true story. Okay, so I've had two experiences, and this is true. When I was 12, my whole neighborhood and like the whole town that I lived in was a very famous UFO sighting. And they said that it was a slow moving group of like 30 something helicopters. That was like the story that came out like weeks later. The police were like they were going crazy with the calls, and we even had the police because it was over my house, my apartment building. When I was a kid, and everybody was outside looking up, and we didn't know what it was, and we would have heard helicopters. Wasn't no helicopters. But then years later, so that was like one thing. Years later, I had a dream. I've never had like one of those waking dreams where you have a dream and you wake up and you're like, oh, here I am. There were three shorter, like, the Aleister Crowley type, demon looking aliens, the gray aliens, three of them. And they were like dark in color, and I go like this. I'm like, true story, scared my wife to death. She falls out of the bed, comes over, clicks on the light. I wake up, snap out of it. There's nobody there. Okay. My son from downstairs heard me yelling, ran upstairs. Noah came upstairs with his bat, thought that we were being attacked. And I've never had like a waking nightmare, so I probably got probed. Rex.
Well, dude, that's why you work out all the time, so you can take on aliens. You're like, I don't want that today. Boom, boom. I wrestle angels. My name's Jacob.
I actually wrestled an angel. The last time I worked in wrestling, true story, there was a guy who was wrestling, and I was supposed to get involved in the match, and I was like this psychiatrist, and my name was Dr. James Cobb, Dr. J. Cobb. And in the match, I got to choke a wrestler out whose name was Angel. True story, his hamstring snapped. And I didn't realize the significance of the fact that this time the angel walked away with a limp until I was on the plane. Yeah, true story. Just weird, but true. I don't know. Listen, aliens are fun to talk about. I think it's cool. We see, I don't know if it's a Starlink or whatever, over our house. We see satellites all the time, going across. Must be a satellite. We haven't seen any of those crazy things that I showed in the show today where you have all these things, but something's happening. I just don't know what it is. And I find all the stuff with like U2 doing their Achung baby with the spears, and you brought up the Phantasm. Can you think of any other spear movies?
Not off the top, but I'll definitely do a Google search on that and see what we can come up with. But pretty cool, man. I'm really thankful and grateful that we had this brainstorm session today.
Yeah, it was fun.
This was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for giving me a call. I slept in a little bit today, and I'm glad that so
productive. It's good to be productive.
It is.
Are you a sci-fi? Are you a sci-fi fan? Do you like like sci-fi movies?
Big time. Yeah. What should I watch?
What's your favorite, thing that you're watching right now, if you're watching anything? Because I'm always looking for, I'm watching Dune, the new Dune series on Max. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't seen the series. The movie was good. I really like the original and the soundtrack of the original. I'm actually watching a really cool movie right now called The Jackal, or it's a TV series.
I'm watching that too. That is awesome. Yeah, he's a great actor. He was in Jupiter Ascending.
Yep, he was one of the brothers.
He was like the bad guy. He was scary for somebody who weighs 55 pounds.
I know. I thought that he was I thought in the film, because I think they were trying to portray Enki and Enlil, the two brothers.
Yeah.
So I thought they would have had somebody that was like lean and mean and buff. And then the other guy would have been super buff, like not the Rock, but the Mountain.
That's the other movie. That's the other movie, Jupiter Ascending, that a lot of people say is kind of like a documentary too. You know what I mean? Like that's probably more of what it is. Like this is like a planet that's about to be harvested. How scary is that? Before we go, let's not leave people freaked out and worried, because they always talk about the harvest in the Bible, and the people are worried about the rapture in the Bible and all this stuff. But it is an interesting theory that we're like a farm planet.
Well, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I want to give you some optimism here, brother, because so the divine feminine that is born into the earth as a regular person dealing with the grind, the lower middle class, just really struggling to pay the bills. But they saved the world, right?
Yes.
Divine feminine. Think about that.
Who cleaned toilets? Somebody who cleaned toilets in the movie too, Jupiter Ascending. She was like the lowest of the low, and she turned out to be the one she was the queen, right? Saves everything. That's us. That's why they've been watching you, Rex. We're like superheroes, you and me.
I hope so, bro. I really want that would be cool. Flash Gordon, you know what I mean? Flash Gordon is the ultimate superhero. So come on, me. Do you remember that scene at the end? Oh, I gotta throw this out there. You're gonna love this. Come on, Flash, let's get out of here. I can't. So he's in this ship. He's trying to take out Ming. But the guy, speaking of the Anunnaki and the Ajiji and all that, it's in Flash Gordon's 1980 film. So they're trying to get Flash Gordon out of the ship because the ship's going to crash into this beautiful castle where Ming is. And he's like, no, one life to save a million. And so anyway, Flash lives and he gets married and he takes out the bad guy, but the bad guy survives somehow in the fourth dimension. So anyway.
I mean, it's like the story really, even in scripture, there are the angels and there are all these other beings that have been around a lot longer than the human race, but the human race is kind of like the pinnacle of creation. It's the part where God can become one, and it all comes together. So anyway, everybody go follow Rex Bear, just the coolest, best guy, best YouTuber going. Been a fan of his for a long time now. I'm just so grateful to be his friend. Link is in the description of the video. If you want to support the channel, best way to do this is you can, get the merch. You go to the links in the description, you get the merch, the buckle up shirt, everything. Get truly free, toxic free stuff. You're into this, Rex. Best cleaning stuff around, dishwashing, soap, all this stuff. This is what supports the channel. Without that, I wouldn't be on here, and
Will I look as buff as you if I wear your gear? if I wear your shirt?
Yes, as long as you get it in like child small. Because that's what I do. All right, everybody. I love each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.